Most people believe Jesus healed everyone he met. It's a comforting idea. Simple, predictable. It allows people to believe that if suffering exists, healing must be automatic. That faith works like a system. Show up, wait long enough, and eventually something good will happen. But one morning in Jerusalem, Jesus walked into a place filled with suffering and healed only one man. Hundreds of others remained exactly where they were. And the man he chose wasn't bold. He wasn't grateful. He didn't even protect Jesus afterward. That's what makes this story dangerous. Because if Jesus healed him, then the story is not about deserving faith. It's about what happens when healing removes the thing we've been hiding behind. Jerusalem was already alive when Jesus passed through the sheep gate. Merchants were calling out prices. Animals bleated in narrow streets. Stone walls reflected the heat before the sun had fully risen. Just beyond the gate stood the pool of Bethesda, a place people spoke about quietly, as if loud hope might make disappointment worse. 5 stone porches surrounded the water, cold, permanent, unchanging. The pool itself was still, almost lifeless, but the people around it were restless. Bodies lined the ground in patterns shaped by years of waiting. The blind sat closest to the edge, faces turned toward sounds they could never see. The paralyzed lay farther back, mats arranged like forgotten belongings. The sick leaned against pillars, watching the water as if it might suddenly remember them. Among them lay a man who no longer counted days. 38 years earlier, he had tried to keep track. He remembered the first year clearly, the anger, the disbelief, the constant calculations. He measured distance, timed other people's movements, convinced himself that if he learned the pattern, if he reacted faster next time, healing would be his. But patterns always favored someone else. Each time the water stirred, chaos erupted, feet splashed, hands pushed, voices shouted, and each time he arrived second or third or not at all. Eventually, the struggle itself became exhausting. Hope demanded too much energy. So he adapted. He learned where to lie so the sun wouldn't burn his face. He learned which sounds meant success and which meant disappointment. He learned how to explain his condition without explaining his fear. Over time, the mat beneath him stopped feeling temporary. It became stable, reliable, honest in a way people were. As long as he stayed there, no one expected more. That morning felt exactly the same. Until someone stopped in front of him. Jesus didn't stand above him like a healer inspecting a problem. He didn't crouch theatrically. He simply stood still, long enough that silence replaced noise. The man felt it before he saw it, the uncomfortable sensation of being noticed. Jesus looked at him. Not briefly, not politely, fully. He knew how long the man had been there, knew the years had reshaped his expectations, knew that suffering, left long enough, becomes identity. And Jesus asked a question that felt almost unfair. Do you want to be made well? The man's first instinct was irritation. Of course he wanted to walk. Who would? But the question lingered longer than expected. Wanting healing meant imagining tomorrow without the mat, without the story, without the built-in explanation for why life had stayed small. If he said yes, something would be required of him. So he answered the way people do when they are afraid of change. Sir, he said, voice steady, practiced, reasonable, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. He talked about timing, about systems, about other people. He did not say, I'm scared of standing. Jesus did not respond to the excuse. He did not look at the water. He spoke as if the pool had never mattered. Get up, he said. Pick up your mat and walk. There was no space between instruction and expectation, no proof offered, no reassurance given. The command arrived before certainty, before confidence, before logic. For a moment, the man stayed still. Then something unfamiliar moved through him. Not emotion, not excitement, but strength. Quiet, steady, undeniable. His legs responded before his mind agreed. Muscles engaged. Balance returned. He stood. The ground did not tilt. The world did not collapse. For the first time in 38 years, he looked forward instead of up. He picked up the mat that had carried his weakness, folded it under his arm, and walked away from the pool that had defined him. People stared. Some whispered. Others stepped aside as if he were something fragile or dangerous. But the real resistance came later. Jerusalem noticed the mat before it noticed the miracle. It was the Sabbath. The religious leaders approached with narrowed eyes, law already forming accusations before curiosity could interrupt. "It is the Sabbath," they said. "The law forbids you to carry your mat." They didn't ask how long he had been paralyzed. They didn't ask what had changed. They saw only what broke the rule. Fear returned instantly. Healing had not prepared him for confrontation. "The man who made me well told me," he said quickly, "pick up your mat and walk." They asked who it was. He didn't know. Jesus had already disappeared into the city, leaving the man healed, but exposed. Later, inside the temple, the man stood among others who looked whole. He tried to blend in, to learn how to exist without being defined by need. That's when Jesus found him again. This time there was no mystery in his voice, no gentleness meant to invite. "See, you are well again," Jesus said. "Stop sinning or something worse may happen to you." The words landed with weight. Healing had not been the conclusion. It had been the removal of protection. The mat had not just supported his body, it had shielded his life from accountability. As long as he lay there, expectations stayed low, judgment stayed distant, responsibility remained optional. Now it was. When the pressure returned, when leaders demanded answers, he chose safety over truth. He told them it was Jesus who healed him. Not out of cruelty, out of fear. Jesus healed someone who wouldn't follow him, someone who wouldn't defend him, someone who would choose comfort when courage was required. And he healed him anyway. Because this story was never about kindness. It was about honesty. And now the story turns outward. Because healing still removes hiding places. If the thing you've been leaning on, the excuse, the habit, the identity shaped by pain, was taken away tomorrow, would you stand? Or would you wish for the mat back? Because healing is not just relief. It is responsibility. And the most unsettling truth in this story is this. Some people don't want to be healed. They want permission to stay where they are. Jesus still asks the same question. Quietly, personally, do you want to be made well? Not because he doubts his power, but because he knows what healing will demand. And not everyone is ready for that. Thank you for spending these moments with us. If this story of Jesus touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us as we share more powerful, lesser-known stories of Jesus that still speak to our lives today. Have a blessed day ahead.